This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
A warm welcome to all the kids from all over the world. We're currently here at Ambient Ngala, and we just found this herd of elephants. So I'm going to be guiding you through this whole experience. My name is Nikki, and then with me on the camera is Owen. So we just wanted to point out there's a beautiful herd. Just at the back of these elephants that we're seeing right now on the screen, there's a few small ones that were early on a little bit more in the open, but we'll probably see them soon. You can see that it's a pretty warm day today, and so now they've just moved into a bit of shade, and that's where they're resting up. Also, there's quite a lot of green grass along the banks here for them to feed on. Francis, I agree, it's such a beautiful family. And you'll see now, I'm just hoping at the back, you might see quite a few of these little legs moving under that bigger one that's close to us. And that's the little ones behind her. So if we give it some time, I wonder if they're going to move out in the open. You can just imagine, for them, as a herd of elephants, they need to eat quite a bit of food and drink a lot of water in the day. Now there's actually one coming on this side of the river. And I think it's a little bit more in the open, but there's the babies. Well, I won't say like small babies, but they fairly small in size. That one that's moving like just behind that female is starting to show tusks. So I think probably close to a year old. And the other one that's coming out. Now that one that we're seeing on the left there of the screen, the one that's not just flicking sand onto itself. Alice H8, that's a really good question. With elephants, you can just have a look at that one that's now flicking sand onto itself. Now, tusks are used as tools. So the one way is they can use it to dig up roots. So sometimes they'll dig it into the soil, or they'll use it to push over a tree, and then from there they'll grab hold of the root and pull it up with their tusks. And there's another baby that's going to cross over in front of us here. So I would say, with the tusks, of course, as we mentioned, so they use it as tools. They also use it to strip bark. So the most nutritious part of a tree is the outer bark. So the elephant would actually go push that tusk against the tree and pull it up the tree, almost like cutting it like a knife, so that the bark is exposed, so it can use its trunk to grab hold of it and peel it off. And then, of course, when bulls fight with each other, they can use it as weapons. So I would say, let's say, as tools, but also out of defense and offense that they can use it for. There's quite a few elephants within this herd. There's a couple that have already went over the bank, and then there are quite a few that are coming down the river now. So the reason why they're probably in the river is, like, further up the river there might have been some sections where they would have dug for some water. So even though this river is dry, underneath us now there is a bit of water flowing. And so these elephants would often dig in some of the areas to try and get to the water. So the mothers will dig, and then the little ones, of course, would just go and then push down their trunk, suck up the water, and then blow it into their mouth. But it'd be interesting if we can spend some time here. You'll see the one that's just standing in the middle of the screen now. Imagine just coming down from an area that's quite warm, and now it just want to cool itself down. So it's using all that cool sand just to flick on its back. Haley 14, I don't think so. I think elephant skin in general are very wrinkly. And the reason being so wrinkly is because the bigger the surface area, the more they lose heat. So in other words, that's one of the options, or one of the possibilities. The other thing is, imagine all those wrinkles, and as soon as they splash any cold sand or mud onto their back, it actually goes into the wrinkles. And because it's laying down there and the wind blows over it, it helps to cool down the elephant quite a bit. Because you can imagine, being in the African sun, sometimes in the summertime it can nearly get up to 45, 47 degrees Celsius. So that's pretty warm, and they need to be able to cope with that. And so basically by flicking water on themselves, going and swimming, so all these, even standing under the shade, so they have to a lot of behavior, but also they have a lot of features that helps them with that. And having a skin that's several sizes too big really helps with cooling them down. And you'll see the youngsters, especially that youngster near that one now, often they'll learn from their mothers how to do that. See, she just flicked up a bit of sand onto her back to cool herself. Imogen 9, that was a very good observation. They actually use those ears also to cool themselves down. You'll see on a very cool morning, they'll barely flap their ears. But on a warm day, it's constantly. And sometimes if you do walk in the bush or you drive in the bush and you try and find elephants, one of the things you could be listening out for is when an elephant moves and then suddenly they just go like, goop, goop. You can hear the ears in the distance. It's pretty loud. It can travel for quite a few 100 meters, that sound. And also the other thing, of course, we're listening out for is if there's any branches breaking. Because you can imagine with a big herd like this, they need to eat quite a bit of food. So some of the bigger ones, or the smaller one that we just seeing moving off to the left, I wonder if there's some more that's on that side. But the ones off to the right, the bigger ones that we can see, they'll need to eat quite a bit of food. You can see this one right over here. And if you see the one there with that buffalo thorn, the one that we had a bit closer view of, the one that's actually with the head into the tree. So they'll need to eat, for that body size, probably close to 150 kilograms of food a day. So that's 300 pounds. And so imagine a big herd like this, if they do start moving, how much do they need to eat? So we're going to spend some more time with these elephants, see what they might be up to for the next little while. But while we do that, let's send you across to David so that he, of course, can introduce himself, but also so we can hear what his plan is going to be for this afternoon.
Hello and welcome to your sunset safari on Djuma, Greater Kruger Park. We just got in mobile, just left camp. Very excited to see what we're going to find this afternoon. As you may know, if you watched this morning's sunrise safari, we spent a lot of time tracking lion, and they since crossed into Little Gowrie, so I'm no longer on a mission for lion. It was lovely though to have the sighting yesterday of them. What I do think we should do is maybe go past the hyena den and see if anyone's out and about. See if Ribbon and her cubs are peeking their heads out the hole. Haven't been there in a couple days. Well, remember that first 45 minutes of the show are dedicated to the kids, so remember to send us in lots of questions to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to get those questions and interact, chat a little bit. And let's stop at these two beautiful animals for a quick look. Who do we have here? A wildebeest and an impala over there in the shade. Not going to go all the way down there because I want to turn on this road. It goes off to the den. Standing in the shade. While those two friends enjoy their time in the shadows, let's send you over to Tristan, to say good afternoon.
Indeed, it's wonderful to be able to say good afternoon to all of you from the African wilderness. It's always such a privilege to be out here, so it's nice that you guys have joined us and are along for the ride this afternoon. As David mentioned, my name's Tristan. On camera, I've got BK. And, well, we are on Simbambili already. We're going westwards. We're going to go try and see what is lurking on this side. We haven't been here this morning, and so I have no idea what's been going on. I just want to try and see if I can pick up some tracks or signs of anything, and hopefully we'll get lucky with something in this area. I did actually spend the vast majority of my day trying to track that male leopard from this morning, but unfortunately there were just too many elephants and buffalo in the area, and it was as I was kind of getting somewhere on the tracks and I kept bumping into elephants and I have to loop around, and then I lost the tracks completely in a thick block. So I was a bit annoyed at that. I was hoping that we would be able to track him down, because sometimes when you have a spate of dry runs with a certain animal, you've got to just put in a little bit more effort in order to get there. Hard work generally gets you the results that you want. So I thought I'd spend the day out walking, trying to just track that male, and like I said, I made progress, but unfortunately the Ellies and the Buff thwarted my efforts. The good thing though is that I think it's an important thing to do, particularly because I'm sure that's Mulawati's track. I don't think it's Tingana's track, just judging from where it came from and where it's kind of walked. But it's, I think, a good thing for him to start, you know, hearing people tracking him, and at least for us to try and start finding him on foot. Maybe that's going to help with just starting to settle him down a little bit and making him more viewable, because for now it looks like he is going to be the dominant male leopard that is going to be here to stay for a while. And so what we need to do is start to make him kind of realize that we are not trying to steal his food, we're not trying to chase him, we're not trying to hurt him, and that will hopefully get him to relax a little bit. The other reason why I came this side today is just purely because on a very, 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 very off chance, and I say this and I can't stress it enough, capital very, underlined, in bold, we're going to go all the way to the boundary, and I want to go there because yesterday Hosanna was mating. Now, if a leopard is mating, sometimes what can happen is they can be dragged around a little bit, and females can be pulled into areas that they don't normally go, and sometimes they move quite a big distance, and you never know. Maybe, just maybe, he arrives on the cut line somewhere with Ottawa. It's not likely at all, and it's probably not going to be the case, but one must roll the dice if one is to have any success, and so that is what we are going to go and do. We're going to go and try and see if we can head down that way, and maybe we'll get lucky. I don't know. It's worth a try, isn't it? The chances are small, but there is at least a chance. Like I say, you never really know where he could be. Alright, while I roll positive vibes out there and chance my arm and see what I can get, let's send you back across to Nikki, who seems to have had a bit of luck already this afternoon and is enjoying his elephants on the riverbank.
So we're just having a look at this little elephant that has moved up the bank, but it's so interesting. There was a log just behind it, and it tried to go move over the log, but it couldn't raise its feet high enough to get over it, so it actually dragged itself over the log to get right next to Mom. You can see Mom's shadow. There she is, just nudging Mom. Come on, let's go. Be interesting to see how they come down that steep bank. Well, there's the little one going. See his ears out. He's probably encouraging the other ones. Come on, let's go. Mom says we need to go. Imagine how beautiful it would be as soon as we can get them crossing this whole river in front of us. You can see the little one has his ears out. Now, sometimes the youngsters, whenever there's a bird or any other animal nearby that's probably its size and smaller, will try and chase it. And you see they'll flare their ears out like that, very playful. And of course, they do know that Mom's behind them. Often if they run and they realize Mom's not behind them, they lose quite a bit of their confidence and they'll run back. But you can see the little one's now just taking a bit of sand, might have an itch on his ear. So he's just scratching his ear as we speak. Let's just see, look at that trunk, just feeling where the soft sand is, maybe some cool sand, and then he'll just flick it onto his head. Just loosening it with his right foot quickly. So I heard a lot of the viewers are actually like, such a beautiful sighting. I agree. I think myself and Owen had a discussion about it. I said, like, how amazing is it just to be able to see a herd of elephants like this, and just to be able to learn as much as we can by watching their behavior. Because I think even if you do study a book, because the book can only take you this far in studying it, but each individual elephant has its own unique traits. And when you do follow them, you can actually see how with the whole herd, I mean, like, look at how much is actually going on here. There's a few that are standing together. Look at the one standing with his foot up into the air. The one that's right in front there. So just resting a little bit. The baby's just behind. Other one resting his trunk on top of the baby's back now. And it's always with the herd. She might have just waited for the rest of the herd to join up with her. It might be a little family group within the bigger herd. And now she's leading them, telling them, come on, let's go. You'll see directly behind her now would be that baby that's moving into the screen. And who knows if that is possibly the matriarch or the leader of this herd. Maybe one day that little elephant that you see walking behind her would be the leader of this herd. Hanno 12, very good question. They actually smell the water. So you'll see them sometimes moving and it looks like they touch their trunk on the sand. And that's them smelling if there's anything around. And if they do smell like a very strong or there's a very strong smell of water, then you'll see them digging with their trunk and their feet. Just wanted to point out, Owen, there's one here off to the right. There's one youngster that has now just moved away from the mom. Now, just looking at that youngster, yeah, just off to the right here, you see the mom's the one off, and there's the little one. Now, if you notice, have you noticed there's no tusks on this elephant? So either this elephant was born without tusks, or what normally happens, once an elephant gets past a year old, they slowly start showing signs of teeth. So this might be that this elephant is not even a year old. That's why we can't see any teeth. See how he's just feeling where the cool sand might be, and then just grabbing it and flicking it onto his belly. It's absolutely so quiet this afternoon. Like, we were sitting here and trying to listen to the elephant to hear if there's anything around. See how that one is now going to join that little cluster right there. And it'd be interesting to see. Like, I wonder, sometimes when we look at this, you probably think to yourself, like, what are they communicating with one another? Because you can see that all of them, their heads are huddled in, and even the little one was called closer to come and talk. Look at all of them turning with their heads facing each other. And I wonder, maybe the one discovered or like dug up a bit of water. It doesn't look like it though. I think the little one was just curious, going to see what's happening. And also looking at the size of all of them, it probably looks like they might be the teenagers and all the young ones. The only one that looks a little bit bigger, more like an adult, is the one that's further at the back, off to the right. I know it's a little bit hard to hear, but I'm hoping that even if I stay a bit quiet, that all the viewers might be able to hear it. But it is quite far off, as you can just hear. You can just hear like how they how some members of the herd are actually just blowing the sand out of their nostrils. You can hear some of them feeding, some flapping their ears. But I think for now, we'll probably leave these elephants. They are moving to an area where we'll probably lose them pretty soon. But in the meantime, let's send you across to Tristan with an antelope. So welcome back, everyone. We're going to spend a little bit longer time with these elephants. We thought earlier maybe if we do send you across to Tristan, they might just move off, but I think they decided to go against what we just said and stick around for a little bit longer. Now, where those elephants are moving now is a really dense area, so if they do move off there, we won't be able to see them. However, have a look at the one off to the right here, in the middle. I'm going to ask Owen if you can focus on that one. You'll see the trunk is up in the air. Just lower it, you might pick it up again. Now often with elephants, if they move and they fall behind, you'll see them picking up their trunks to smell, almost like that little one did when he had the sand in his trunk. So let's just see, look at the one picking up just off to the right. Oh, it is hard because every time they do it, it's just so quick, and then they drop it again. If we do see it, I'm going to try and see if we can point it out. One just grabbed like a little patch of grass and just threw it off. Poppy, age 6, that's a very good question. So when they are born, they can weigh anywhere from 85 kilograms to 150 kilograms. So basically, Owen, how much do you weigh? 90. Yeah, I also weigh roughly around about 90. So I would say it's probably the size, like the baby is as heavy as a average size man. That's how big they are, or that's how much they weigh. And then they grow quite quickly. So you saw the one that we saw earlier without the tusk, that's probably close to a year old. So they grow a lot in that year. And normally after that, from 2.5 years onwards, they grow really quickly. Just to give you an idea, I think if we had to focus on the elephants right in front of us, Owen, if I can ask you if you can move to the one slightly to the left of where this one is. So that one that's facing away from us. Because I just think, in terms of the size, if I had to judge the shoulder height of this elephant, I think it's probably around, not to over-exaggerate, maybe just over 2 meters. Look, trunk up in the air, that's what we were talking about earlier, just to smell. It's probably around 2 meters, and if I look at the size of the tusk, this elephant's probably around maybe 12, 13 years old, but that's just roughly the size of them. And that elephant there would at least be close to 2 tons, if not more than 2 tons. So while we are going to be moving on, I think let's leave these elephants be. They're going to slowly start feeding into that area. They probably had a drink earlier on, hence being in the river. But I think while we do that, let's send you across to David. Now he has also one of my favorite animals in the bush, some mongoose. So let's send you across to him.
Look at who we found. Beautiful little guy. He's a little dwarf mongoose. Ever watchful. So glad they're still here. Often they disappear right before we get to show them to you. Always on the lookout from above and around, because remember they are a favorite food of raptors particularly. Very, very cute. There was a battalier around here somewhere. Where is... Can you see it, Alex? There's a battalier circling overhead. I wonder if they...
I think it's...
I wonder if they know it's there. First sign of danger, they'll dart down that termite hole and be out of sight and in safety. I believe everyone's agreeing on how cute these mongooses are. Is it mongooses or mongoose? Still undecided. And of course, these guys are a beautiful reminder of the opportunity to see the real Timon's meerkats, which we will have the opportunity to see on the Tswalu property, that area. It'll be a good chance of seeing them, and that's very, very exciting. Zebra, you've asked how good is a mongoose's eyesight. I think it's pretty good. Very, very good, I reckon. They see raptors or potential danger a long way away. They're very awake and very alert, and I think they rely heavily on their eyesight. I would compare it probably to our eyesight as humans. Of course, their eyes are very small, but they are also very small, so relatively I think they have very good eyesight. Remember, they've always got someone on duty, someone who's out and about, that's looking for any danger. There's always a sentry. Always eyes on the bush to see who might be a threat. This has been very cute and very special. We're going to move on. We're going to send you over to Tristan, who just made his way down to Simbambili Dam.
I am at a waterhole. We're at Simbambili Dam. Unfortunately, our kudu sighting didn't go very well at all, as I'm sure you all saw. But it ran off into the bush anyway, don't worry. But we're at the dam. There's no sign of the impala carcass, so either it's been pulled out or I don't know. It's somewhere where we can't see it, but I don't see it anywhere near the edge or anything like that. Just a hippo that is sitting there. I was coming just to see what's going on here, to see if there was any sign of anything, but so far it's all quite quiet at the dam. You would expect there to even be some sign of ellies, but there's no tracks leading up into this area and very little dung, which surprises me. A lot of the waterholes at the moment, it's quite a heavy pressure from elephants. You're seeing a lot of their dung around, and you can see where they've been to the edge of the water and they've kind of kicked up the mud a little bit. But this dam looks as though it's been quite quiet from an elephant point of view, which is interesting. I wonder why. I can't really understand it. Maybe it's to do with the fact that the areas surrounding this is quite open, and they're not finding as much food as they'd potentially want, and so they're spending time in other areas, like what we're seeing on Djuma. A lot of them are stacked up against the drainage line, so where it's thicker, shadier, and a lot more food. But interesting, nonetheless, that they're not coming down. But at least we have a hippo, and the hippo is always a good thing. This guy wasn't here the few times that I've been here so far. He was obviously lurking somewhere else and having a good time in another dam somewhere. It's quite common to see hippos moving quite a bit at this time of the year when they've got lots of food, and they kind of go where they want to and eventually just find water somewhere. They can afford to do that because there's so much water around at the moment. Emma is commenting, Emma in Final Control that is commenting that our hippo friend has very long whiskers. That's interesting. Sometimes you can't see the whiskers on hippos because they're so short, but maybe this guy has just got really big ones, unusually long. Maybe he likes to have his whiskers. He does have long whiskers, actually. Your whiskers are very long. I suppose it's the new trend for everyone to have beards and things, so why not a hippo? There used to be a hippo that used to live in this dam that was very cheeky. It was blind in one eye. So I'm just trying to see if it's the same hippo. And he used to be full of beans. He used to open his mouth and thrash the water and roll around and was generally quite a showboat. But this guy's a little bit more shy, and I can't see his eyes as to whether or not they're both okay. Emma, the other day when David was here, were they both fine? Do you remember? Be interesting to know if it's the same hippo or not. BK?
Yeah, I think
BK says he thinks both were okay. I don't know, this left eye looks a bit funny. I'm pretty sure. I wonder if it's the same guy. I've got a photo of him. Let me have a look here. I've got a photo, I think, of this very hippo from many, many years ago. Let's see if it's him or not. We'll have to match the eyes. Oh no, where's that photo now? Oh, I don't have it. Oopsie. That's awkward. David says he noticed no such thing about the hippo's eyes when he saw him. It's the left eye that should be the one that's damaged. I don't have the right photo here. I've only got of his right side, which isn't going to help us at all. I wonder if it's... I have a photo somewhere of his left eye. I wonder what I've done with it. I'm pretty sure it's the same hippo. That left eye is all like milky and doesn't look great. I think it's the same fella. A hippo's eye is supposed to be nice and dark and black almost and quite bright with a little sparkle in it, and that one looks quite dull and almost shaded over in some respects. So I think it's the same hippo. I wish I had the photo of him though. I was working on that photo not too long ago, so I'm not sure why I don't have it. It's very frustrating when you know you have a photo of an individual and you end up not having it on your phone. It is a bit awkward, Emma, but it's okay. Jasper, who's 7 years old, unfortunately hippos can't breathe underwater. They don't have gills like a fish, and so they're not able to do that. They have lungs like us, which means they have to breathe above water. The thing is, though, is that what they do is they'll put their nose up and they'll suck a big, deep breath, and then they'll go back underwater. And when they're underwater, they'll hold their breath for between sort of 5 and 7 minutes. That's about as long as they hold it for. And that is actually not very long for the size of the animal. It sounds like a long time for people, and it is a long time for people, but for an animal of his size, it's actually not that great. If you think that there's some people in this world with much smaller lungs, and they're able to stay underwater for close to 5 minutes, and this guy has probably got lungs that are 1.5 times the size of most men. So, you know, you would think that they would be able to stay down a little bit longer. But that's why you see he just goes down and up, and that's all because he has to breathe air. So he has to get his nostrils out of the water in order to be able to get what he needs. But he's been quite shy today. Can't believe I don't have that photo. I'm very, very sad now. Pretty sure it's the same hippo. Melanie, 8 years old, can they see underwater? Not really. They've got a membrane that will cover their eyes, called nictitating membrane, like a crocodile also has it, and it will make it very, very cloudy for them. But they still have to see where they're going a little bit. So, I mean, they can, but it's not great. It's not like, putting a camera underwater, or if we go underwater with a mask on. It just probably is a little bit murky and a little bit cloudy for them, but they can at least make out certain structures. So if there's a fallen over tree in this dam, they wouldn't just kind of go swimming straight into it, or walking straight into it, should I say, because hippos don't swim for the most part. They walk along the bottom of the dam or the river, and so if there's a tree or something like that, they need to be able to see it when they're walking, and so you'll find that they are able to see a little bit, but not very well. It's not like as good as their eyesight is when they have their heads above water. All right, Mr. Hippo, you're being very, very uncooperative, I'm afraid. Yes, I think that's what we shall call this hippo. This shall be Tom Selleck, because of his little moustache, which will probably go way over the heads of most of the children watching. But while we go and look for other things, let's send you back across to Dave. Go ahead, George.
Lovely. Very, very good one about the moustache. It's looking pretty majestic. Just stopped here to have a look. See, looks like buffalo track crossed this road recently. Remember this morning we were talking about aging tracks? Well, this is a pretty easy one. We drove this road back to camp after being at Chitwa Dam this morning. So I can confidently say that I heard a buffalo pasture in the last 5 hours. Which means it shouldn't be too far, so we should be able to catch up with them. All we got to do is just ascertain the direction. And there we go, so let's do that. And it is pretty simple. It's just like, well, similar to a cow. Where's a good track? Here's a good track. See this buffalo track? Can you see that, Alex? Sorry, too close. Yeah, here we go. Can you see this one? There's a bit of a smaller animal, a younger animal. Let me circle it here. And to get the direction, we look at the track. And it's pointier in the front and a bit wider at the back. And I can see how the sand's been pulled down on the front there. So, most certainly going this way, as the other tracks show. You can even see some of the bush that they've dragged through with them. You can see they came through here. Looks like a bunch of lawnmowers. And some of them were nibbling on branches and a guarri bush. Some grass that they've left strewn in the road. So all signs of a little buffalo herd. Shall we follow it and see if we can find them? down to the Moatu we go. We are enjoying the coolness of the river nowadays. Kim Ye, 8 years old. Hello. You've asked, do I ever get lost? And I definitely do. I get lost quite a bit. Although we don't really call it lost, we call it temporarily disorientated. That's because you always more or less have an idea of where you are in relation to home out here. It's just that you don't know the roads, and you don't know where they all lead and which roads link where, so you sometimes find yourself in an area where it's a road unfamiliar to you. And especially with myself, where I'm not really from this reserve, it takes some getting used to, and I sometimes do work in other places that are also brand new roads, so I'm always having to find my way around. Well, some more buffalo tracks on the road. So we are on the right path. Let me continue on here a bit. Alex and I are going to see if we can find these for you. In the meantime, let's send you back over to Nikki.
So we just had a herd of impala. We try our absolute best to keep the camera on them, and they just decided, no, they didn't want to be seen, so they just ran off. So we're going to carry on with our little search. It's still pretty warm this time of the day, and we're waiting for it to cool down a bit. Now, remember this morning we found that pride of lions? So this afternoon, we were thinking maybe what we could do is explore some areas along the river, see if there's any signs of leopard this afternoon. But then also we'll go past a few of the areas where we also have seen some lions and see if there's any signs of them. And another beautiful animal that we could be looking out for, especially near the river this time of the year, is something like a giraffe. So those are some of the animals we are going to be looking out for as we go along. So just looking at this area, there's quite a bit of elephant dung. Oh. Julie, I do. I actually, before starting at Safari Live, used to go out quite a bit with guests. Now I just wanted to go back just to show you something very interesting that I've seen. Just want to go back to roundabout here. Just want to see if it's right in the road. Okay. Oh, oopsie, oopsie. All right, so we're going to try and refocus and move around, and I'll see if I can find that interesting thing. But in the meantime, we're going to send you across to Tristan with a line.
Well, hopefully our signal will hold and will be good, and we'll be able to show you that there is indeed a lioness sitting there. So our mystery of where our dead impala has gone has been solved. This lioness has dragged this impala out of the water and has just taken it behind the dam wall, and we didn't actually see her because she is tucked away in a little thicket, and if it wasn't for BK's eagle eyes, we might have missed her. But good to see. I'm not sure which lioness it is. I suspect that could be that lone lioness that was near the gate the day, that was involved in that interaction with hyenas when we were waiting for the wild dogs. I think it might be her. I don't see a sign of a cub anywhere here, and obviously the view of her is not easy at the moment. So I'm not 100% sure which pride this lioness belongs to, or who she is just yet, but she's got herself a little impala meal, which is good for her, being that she's on her own. And secondly, it's a bit of a luck for us to start our drive with a lioness. It's a very cool thing to see, so pretty excited about that. We've had a few quiet days when it's come to cats, so it's nice that we've managed to find our first cat on Simbambili, and like I say, a mystery cat too, in some respects, because we're not 100% sure who she is just yet. But it would have been amazing to have watched her try to get that impala. Although, BK, you said it was right next to the edge when you saw it last. Maybe she just had to kind of grab it and pull it out. It's going to be interesting to sit here because the smell of it is quite pungent, this impala. You can imagine it's been 4 days now since we first saw it, so it's got quite a strong smell, and as the sun starts to set and the cool air starts to sink, that smell is going to be kind of sitting heavy around this area, and I wonder if maybe hyenas are going to start to come in and potentially harass her again for this particular meal. She's eaten quite a lot of it already. There's pretty much half the impala is missing, and it's behind her, so it's a bit difficult to see, but as we drove in we managed to spot the impala behind her, so she's kind of eaten it in half. So she's had a really good meal, so even if hyenas do come, they would be able to, she would at least be able to, if she got chased off, still have had a really good feed and still have benefited from this particular meal. Unfortunately, it's the time when the kids just about to leave us, although most of the kids will still be watching, so remember, kids, you can still ask questions, but it is that time where we switch over to the more adult section of the drive, and so for those of you that are just joining at this time, remember that you can ask questions on #WildEarth or at FC on the YouTube chat streams, and it's nice to have you all along this afternoon. So it should be an interesting little kind of evening, I think, here at the dam. I think now it's going to be fairly quiet. It's still very, very warm in the sun. BK and I are sitting here being roasted by the sun. We've got signal in one little spot, which is a miracle in its own right. And so we're probably going to, I think, we'll wait for her to sort of pop her head up, see if we can get an ID, but then we might do a loop and come back here when it gets a little bit cooler, because I doubt she's going to move too much. There's not too many threats for her right now. There's certainly no hyenas that we can see. There's no other members of a pride. So for now, I think she's just going to rest, she's going to digest, and then as the evening starts to set in, I think that's when we'll start to see a little bit of a difference and start to notice maybe potentially hyenas coming and her having to then defend the kill, which will be very, very interesting. I'm also super interested to see if she's got suckle marks, to see if that cub that was treed the other day close to the gate is hers, or if it's the same lioness, and whether or not this is the Shimungwe lioness. Now, the Shimungwe pride will be very unfamiliar to pretty much most of you. It's not a pride that we've spent huge amounts of time with, and that's because this pride went through a very, very rough past. The last time, if it is a Shimungwe lioness, the last time that I saw her in the company of a young male and a female, and that was all the way back in 2015, was the last time I saw her, and she was part of probably one of the most intense, crazy lion sightings I've been in. It involved the Nkuhuma pride, and these guys, as well as who else was around? Who else was at that pride? The Nkuhuma male was also there. So not the one from this last litter. Previous to that, even we used to call him Junior. So it was him. There was somebody else that was involved in that whole altercation, because there were 3 different groupings of lions that were involved. I wonder if it was maybe a Styx male or something. I can't remember. I'll think of it just now. But anyway, they were involved in probably one of the most incredible lion-hyena interactions I've ever seen. It was sheer chaos that ensued. The Nkuhumas managed to bring down a buffalo, actually not very far from where we are right now. And the hyenas started to arrive, and there was only at the beginning 2 or 3 hyenas, and the lions were easily able to contend with that. And then at one point, the Nkuhuma male, he left and he went to go and drink, and the closest water at that point was very far away. You had to walk all the way to Simbambili camp. And before he got back, for some unknown reason, the females from the Nkuhuma pride and the sub-adults all got up and also went. And they walked down towards Simbambili as well. And this opened the chance for the hyenas to start coming in. And the hyenas massed and they started to feed a little bit. And then the male Junior arrived back and he managed to scatter everybody. And he was kind of defending this buffalo by himself. And then these hyenas just all of a sudden, just massives of them arrived, and we ended up with over 30 hyenas, and they just gave these guys the biggest hiding you can ever imagine. They came in and they just smashed these inkahumas all over the place. Inkahumas were running in every direction. And in that chaos, with the hyenas chasing the Inkahuma pride, and I think at the time Inkahuma pride was 11, so there was a lot of hyenas and a lot of lions running in all directions. The Shimungwe pride, which were the 3, snuck in amongst all of this, and then they started to feed on this buffalo kill. And from there, the hyenas then came back and chased these guys, and all 3 of them ended up in marula trees with hyenas underneath. And the audio for this was just the most incredible audio you can ever imagine. I actually have a video of it on my phone that was taken by another guide called Gareth Legg, and his tracker Mumps at the time. And it was, I won't play it now, just from a simple point of view, is that the audio of the lions and hyenas would stress this lioness out. It is that loud and it is that chaotic. But I'll play it just now if we move away from here and come back to it a little bit later. But it is the most unbelievable thing to have witnessed, these hyenas just going at these lions. It was crazy. It was really, 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 really an intense battle that took place, and it was just the most ridiculous thing to come into a sighting and see all these hyenas and all these lions in trees, because at one point the Inkahuma pride, I think there was about 7 of them were in a tree. I can't even remember. It was a lot of them were in trees, and then the 3 Shimungwe lions were in a tree. They came down, and then Junior chased the young male from the Shimungwes, and there was hyenas chasing lions chasing other lions, and it was just sheer chaos. And this all happened, what was amazing about it was all happened at about 9:10 in the morning. Pretty much every other vehicle had closed down, bar myself and this other guy that was that I mentioned earlier that was in the sighting with me, and we had stayed out a little bit later, and because obviously we were watching the process, and so it was just the 2 of us and just sheer pandemonium that was taking place. And so sometimes, things can happen in the heat of the morning. It's not always going to happen, in the cool times, but if it is her, it'll be amazing just thinking back on the poor kind of time she had that day, and that she's at least in a much better state this time with a nice full belly. If it is her, it's just the most incredible thing that she's managing to survive all on her own. Now, a lot of Giraffe Girl, you were saying you were leaning to the fact that it could be the Shimungwe lioness. I mean, it would be so nice if it was. Like I said, it's been so long since I've seen her. This pride comes from a very, very distant part of the Sabi Sands. They come all the way from the very far west. And like I say, she's had a torrid time of it with her mothers being killed and her aunts, and pretty much her pride decimated, leaving her and her sister a young male. And then from there, he was ousted and chased away by the Birminghams, and then she was left with just her sister, and now, we don't even know where the sister is. I don't know if it's the same lioness that Trish had the other day that was so thin, but we'll try and figure it out. Maybe some of you got a picture of her face, and we can maybe make some of the whisker patterns from there. All right, we're going to sit here, we'll be patient. Hopefully she's eventually going to pop her head up. In the meantime, though, let's send you back across to Dave.
Such exciting news about the lioness. Well done to Tristan. That is very, very cool, and at least that impala didn't go to waste. Just want to have another quick check here. Some more buffalo tracks. I think we're getting nice and close. They've been off and on the road, in and out of the block. We can always check the poo. It's always a good way. Nice and soft. If you really wanted to be very specific, you would stick your finger in there and feel the warmth, but I'm not going to do that today because I know that they're close. Probably down in the Moati drainage. Makes sense. See, their tracks are all over the show here. And this is pretty cool. Can anyone guess what this line was made by? Can you see that well enough, Alex, to be able to quiz on it? Check this line. This line coming right across the road. It's nice and wide, with a deep central gully and different patterns along it, almost spirally. Can anyone guess what would have made that? I'm going to come back to the car so I can get plugged in here. Well, the guess is, Megan, you think it's a drag mark? It's a good guess. Does look almost like a drag mark, but there's something that's giving it away. None of your business. When FC said that to me, I thought I said something wrong. But that's your name, and you've guessed it correctly. Like I was saying to Megan, there is something that's a telltale sign on this. Actually unplug and go back there, then I can show you. There's a deep line going through the center, so a drag mark. You can imagine if a leopard was dragging a steenbok, for example, it would just kind of be a drag, and you would have like a flat line like this. Whereas with this, there's a deep line going through the center, and that looks like, what could it be? A tail. So none of your business, you got it, it's a rock monitor. Well done. Then if you look even closer, you can actually see where its claws have left lines in the sand as it walks and shuffles. And as it walks and shuffles, this was quite a fatty, it was a big oak, or a girl. Its stomach has left those nice smooth marks on the sand, almost serpentine in its motion. Very, very cool. Wonder where it's gone. Maybe up a tree. But we are close to our buffalo. So let's continue the search. But once again, very exciting about that lioness. Let's send you back over to Tristan. See what they're up to.
Well, it's still a mystery. For us, it's very difficult to see anything. I mean, I don't know if for the camera it's maybe a little bit easier, but so much grass in front of her face, and the contrast between the shadows and the light is not making it easy to kind of pick up much. But it doesn't look like an old lioness, that's for sure. Her ears seem in fairly decent condition, and I mean, she's got a few little cuts and scrapes on her muzzle, but her nose is a little bit pink still, so I think that it's not an old individual. Also, I don't see any suckle marks from here. It's not to say that there isn't. It's not a great angle on her tummy, but I don't see any sign of any suckle marks there at this stage. Now, for the cub that was chased up into the tree, it's a very little cub, 4 months old. It should theoretically still be suckling. I believe a lot of you at home are stumped as to who she is at this stage. Look, I mean, it's not great views, and it's certainly not going to be easy to be able to ID her from the views that we've had at this stage. But as the evening progresses, I'm hoping she's going to pick up her head, and we'll be able to actually get a better view, maybe get a little whisker count, and that will take it from there. I see she's got a little nick in her right ear and a nick in the left ear as well. That maybe will help us with being able to ID her. I do have a photo of the lioness that was at the gate the other day, so it'll be interesting to see if it is her. Now, Kathy, why would she be by herself? So there's a couple reasons for lionesses to be on their own. One could be if it was a lioness that was pregnant and was looking to go and give birth, or had recently given birth and was going back and forth from her pride in order to suckle her little ones. We know that that's not the case because she's sitting on a carcass. There's no sign of cubs anywhere near here, or at least not that we've seen. And if there was, I suspect that cub would have come to the carcass and would be lying with its mother very, very close by. It wouldn't be venturing too far. So that's the one thing. The other thing is, you know, it's a lioness, or if it is the Simbambili lioness, then it's unfortunate that the rest of her pride is just no longer. She has no other members to her pride. It's been whittled down to one. And so she would be the last bastion of this particular pride lineage, and she would have to then try and raise cubs from there. Oh no, now you put your head up, but behind the bush. which is obviously a very sad thing to think about, and is actually a common thing at the moment, because we have, if it is her, we have the Simbambili lioness, we have the Salala lioness, that are on their own and literally trying to rebuild their own prides. And I think the Sparta lioness, or Ifield lioness, is also on her own at the moment. So it means that there's 3 different lineages that are trying to rebuild based off one female, and that's going to be incredibly difficult for a lioness. Now, Emma, I'm going to risk going forward 1 meter. Let's see. I know the signal is very bad here, so let's just see if I go forward a little bit, if maybe... VK, let's see if we get there. How's that? A little bit more? A little bit more? I think that's good. We're still good. Excellent. Sure. The signal is doing very well today, and the other day wouldn't have let us do this at all, but it's a good thing. So that's at least a better view of her. You can see that there's some bite marks to her kind of neck area. There's a little bit of pitting there. I wonder if I think she's the one that was involved with that scrap with those hyenas the other day. It wouldn't surprise me. Just trying to think of what other lioness or what other prides would be around. Sky Doogie, I was just looking at that now. I mean, those are typical of mating bite marks, those marks on the back of her neck, but I wonder if it's actually not from this hyena interaction, if it is the same lioness that she had a few days ago. That could explain why there's little bite marks there. But generally that is associated with mating. I don't see any sign of a male here either, and generally if there's food around, males are never too far if they were to be in a mating pair. So she's got a few little nicks and scrapes around her, although I don't know, it's interesting. I mean, I can't see any sign of any really fresh wounds. They all look as though they're fairly well healed. It could also be just tick damage. So single animals like this, particularly after a wet summer like we've had, will have had quite a few ticks, and I can actually see 2 ticks on her shoulder and her neck. And because she's got no pride members to groom her, if she is on her own, then ticks do hammer the back of the head and ear areas, and they do get the scarring that takes place. So it could be from that point of view as well, a tick related story. Giraffe Girl, you're saying a great lion mystery, you love it. Indeed, it's always nice to have a mystery to try and solve out in the bush. It's certainly in keeping, as Emma has pointed out, from our movie night last night, because we watched a movie that was all about a murder mystery, and so the mystery aspect is continuing today. No, I won't do a terrible accident like the actor in that movie. Don't worry, Emma, we're all good. Just trying to look at the kill as well, the dead impala. It's definitely a ram. It looks like a ram with a broken horn. I'm not sure if that horn broke in the fight with another, or during the process of her dragging it out, or maybe the hippo. It's definitely an impala ram that is there. Nice free meal for you, girl. So you think she's maybe in witness protection? Maybe. She's certainly making it hard enough to try and ID her by shoving her face in the long grass every 2 minutes. So it's not making it easy. Puma, you're saying, could it be the one young from the previous? She was missing. Could it be her? I mean, it's possible. A little bit too worn for a young lioness, but it's possible. Without kind of seeing the face and seeing whiskers and getting a really decent view of her, I think it's going to be tricky to make a judgment just yet. I think what we need to do is see her properly and see her facing us. When we first arrived, she was sitting so perfectly. She was just facing dead at us, and we had this kind of perfect view. And as we sort of switched off, she just plonked flat again. And that was the end of that. So we're just going to have to be patient. I'm sure she's going to put up her head at some point this afternoon. What I think I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to just do a quick run to the boundary while it's still so hot to see if there's any tracks for our friend, our spotty friend, down that side. I really don't think Hosana will have come this side at all, but, you know, it's a 1% chance, so we might as well go have a look quickly while it's still hot. And then we come back to this at around sunset, and then we can hopefully get a really nice view. Maybe she'll even go and drink for us. We can get her walking, and that would really kind of help us in IDing who she is. I think that's the plan. All right. Good. She's sleeping. We're going to come back. In the meantime, though, I'm going to send you back across to David.
Well, we've seen where the tracks go down into the drainage, so we're just grabbing a link road around the back to get down into the Moati, and we should pick up on the buffaloes. Really cool that lioness found that impala. Luckily it didn't go to waste. Things seldom go to waste in the bush. Obviously just took some time for the impala to float to the side of the bank so that something could grab it. I thought hyenas would have gotten it, but quite a surprise that it was a lioness, but very cool nonetheless. Must be some very tender meat after floating in the water for 3 days. Nads, we've been doing South African lessons, you say, and you want to know the difference between now and nanau. There is no good way to explain that. Let me think about it. So, I guess the easiest way to try and explain it is now is a lot sooner than nanau. I hope that helps. So in context, if your mom says dinner's ready and you say I'll be there now, she might throw something at you. If it's a nice warm dish and it's getting cold, because now means you might first finish what you're doing, pack your tools away, come in the house, wash your hands, clean up. It takes a while. It could be probably about 20 to 30 minutes. Whereas if you say, I'll be there now, that's a little bit sooner. That should buy you enough time to get there without getting shouted at. And then there's another one that's kind of somewhere in between. That's just now. So I'll be there just now. I'm not really sure where that one actually falls in. Do you think that's longer than Nana or sooner than Nana, Alex? Just now. I'll be there just now. Yeah, I think just now is between now and Nana.
Just now is kind of like in the next 30 minutes.
Yeah, about half an hour. I hope that helps. Well, we should be getting a visual of our buffaloes soon. We are almost down into the Moati. I reckon we're going to check them now. Knox, you say you're loving learning a bit more of the South African lingo. South Africans do have a delicious lingo. And I suppose it's because we have such a colourful history and such a varied people group and language base. With 11 official languages, you're bound to have a very colourful vocabulary. I'm gonna go down the riverbed here. I think they are probably in the riverbed. Although this might be a na-na kind of deal. Let's see. Let's first check the one side, then the other. Christelle, you've asked, have I ever had guests that have made some strange requests? I have to think about that one. I'm sure there have been. Thing is, no request is ever that strange in this game because we like doing the odd and going the extra mile, so there's no set standard of a safari package. If you're selling a safari package, it's not like, well, at least in my company, we're not too stressed about sticking to regimented programs. We kind of just fly by the seat of your pants. If you're having dinner and you hear the lions roaring, then skip your dinner and get in the vehicle and go out and try and find them. Don't really stick to a set regimen, so for me, nothing really too strange. Had a lot of funny, strange questions though, that is a given. Alex, I think they're further down that way. I think we're coming a little bit too far east, but it's okay. It's a beautiful drive. Buffalo won't be anywhere in a hurry. So now, let's just cruise down here a little ways. We might see something surprising in this riverbed with all these beautiful trees. Trent, you've asked what is the most important thing when tracking any animal through the bush. I suppose it's to actually look up every now and then. Generally when we're tracking things, it's something that can bite you or hurt you. It's generally the things that we are looking for are potentially dangerous. Whether it's an elephant or a lion or a leopard. So you get so absorbed by your tracking because it takes a lot of effort and concentration to maintain your tracking. You know, you get tired of tracking for a few kilometers, you have to really pay attention, and I reckon it's pretty important to every now and then lift your head, because all too often you walk right into something, and then when you walk right into something, for example elephant or sleeping lion, then you've generally already infringed on their comfort zone, and that's what causes aggression and unfavorable situations. So it's important to look up every now and then. Generally, when we tracking, we're in a team, and it's important that at least one person keeps looking up. Let the tracker track and let the other people look up. So that's pretty important. Also, if you are asking about more technical terms, then it's pretty important to use the sun to your advantage. Makes it a lot easier when you put the track between you and the sun, because the sun then casts a lovely beautiful shadow over the track, and it allows you to actually see it. Try not to track in the middle of the day when the sun is directly overhead. It makes it a lot harder. Try not to walk over the tracks, especially if you're tracking something like lion or leopard that don't leave very easy tracks to follow. Then it's important to not walk over the tracks, but to walk kind of next to them, because oftentimes you'll find you get to an area where you lose the tracks on rocky ground or some very grassy area where it's hard to see them, and you have to kind of backtrack a little bit, walk back a few paces and pick up on the last track you had to get a direction. Sophie, 8 years old, you're asking what time of the year is easiest to track animals. And Sophie, it's pretty much the same all year round. At least that's what I find. It really depends on the area. In the summertime, there's a lot more rain and moisture, so you can use that to your advantage. Moist soil often retains the track a little bit better. But in the winter time, it's often a lot more open, less vegetation, so sometimes easier to see tracks on game paths. Look at this beautiful Birchall starling. Never get enough of how beautiful these birds are in the sunlight. You often just see them in the morning or cruising around in the shade, and they're not so strikingly beautiful, but when you see them in the sunlight, they really are dazzling. As we say that, it's gone down into the shade, so bit cool to watch it drink. Very cool shot. Exquisite. Well, let's send you over to Nicky and see what he's got to say.
So we explored a little bit of the riverbed to try and see if we can find some more lions. Unfortunately, we didn't see anything. We saw some tracks of the one female that possibly, or that has the cubs, but we didn't see any further signs of her. So what we're going to do is we're going to slowly head to where everyone saw that subadult. Oh, watch this. I just saw this baboon in the tall grass. The way he looked at me. I just want to slowly go back. Hopefully he doesn't move off. Just want to see. Oh, they're right there. Yeah, I'm going to move forward for you. I just saw the baby was sitting on mom's back. As I saw them, and that baby, like, he was so surprised when he saw us. So this might even be the same troop of baboons that we saw this morning. Look at how that one probably picked up a berry or maybe a fruit. Now this time of the year, there's not really a lot of berries around, so I wonder what it might be. See, they are moving off. Like, it is getting a little bit harder to see them, but I would like to take the chance to tell everyone what's our plan for this afternoon, or what we're thinking going forward from here. So, last night, everyone would have seen that young male lion and saw like he had quite a big belly, so he had at least a decent sized meal to eat. So what I want to do is maybe go back in that area, see if we can find them. And also this morning, there were 2 questions regarding why a zebra has a mane, and also why is a pride of lions called a pride. Now, I would love to get back. I did some research on it, and I would really love to get back to the kids that asked that question. But as soon as we get closer to the lions, I'll definitely quickly stop and we can go through it. But for now, I think we are going to spend some time on this side of the river to see if there's any other signs of lion. From there on, as it starts to cool down, we'll head to the last position that male was seen yesterday, and then to the rest of the pride from this morning. But still, as we go along, remember earlier this afternoon we said maybe there's a chance of leopard. We're still going to be looking out for leopard as we go through, eventually to end up where those lions are. So that's just a rough idea. And of course, excuse me, if we do see the line, we can always change our route from there. Going to carry on search while that it's led across it.
Sorry about the technical issues there. We've just stopped at this magnificent jackalberry wanting to show you Triagama, but it has disappeared. Let's see if we roll forward a little bit. Maybe we can see it on the other side. Just went around the back. There we go. I still see it. You got it there, Alex. Looks like a male. There it is. Beautiful. That's a male Triagama. And the blue head is what gives it away as a male. How's it gone? Hey, we got a quick look. That's good enough. Not often that you actually get to see those guys. Whoa. What a cool tree. This tree has been here a long time. It's huge, eh? If trees could talk, it would have stories upon stories. Everything climbing on its branches, from leopards to triagamas, to monkeys to baboons, bush babies. What do you see, Alex? Alex has spotted something that I can't see. Ooh, beautiful. Does anyone know what bird that is? Well spotted, man. Can anyone identify it? Quite a common bird in the Lowveld. Jay, excellent find, you say. David, you say it's a kingfisher. It is a kingfisher, but I'm specifically looking for what species of kingfisher. Does anyone know what species it is? It has to do with its hood. That's kind of the giveaway. Very common. Even though it's called a kingfisher, its diet is predominantly, ooh, it's gone, insects. Well, now it's gone, so I'm going to have to give you the answer, and I'll try and find a better picture for you. It is a brown-hooded kingfisher. So David, good job on the kingfisher, but there's a couple different species out here. I wanted to see if we could identify which one it is. But it is now gone. A lot of the viewers are coming in with the correct answer, brown-hooded. Well done. Sorry, it was a bit quick there. Always tricky to try and do a little pop quiz with the brown-hooded and stick around too long. Penelope, you've commented, what a beauty of a sighting. I agree. It was spectacular. Well, still trying to see which way the buffaloes went. So this now is definitely becoming a now. Perhaps not just yet, just now. Let's go around the corner here and have a look. It's a very bright sun. Well, going to continue on through here, try and work our way back to the road. While we do that, let's send you back to Tristan.
Good luck, David. I hope a rosetted coat springs upon you as you venture forth. We are venturing forth. We're on the boundary now. This is, if we're going to find him anywhere, it would be here. Obviously, it's a very small window of opportunity, but we're just going very slowly to see if we can maybe potentially see a track or something like that. Generally, I've been trying to ask the guys a little bit about kind of where the leopards on Simbambili have been moving. So where we are now would be an area that Tiani, Inzutini, and Hukamuri predominantly walk around. Hosana, where he was seen yesterday, is basically straight south from where I am. You would go, I reckon it's probably about 1 kilometer, give or take, and then into the west a little bit on a kind of road that's inside of Ottawa. And so, you know, he would have had to have traveled quite a lot, and that's if she would have kind of come with him. And I don't think he comes up here very often at all. They certainly don't say that he's seen up here, but we're just taking a gamble for the sake of a gamble, to see if maybe, just maybe, we get lucky and something appears for us. Chances are pretty slim though. Jewel, a specific animal in an unusual place. Do you mean like habitat-wise, so something that theoretically shouldn't occur, that does occur? Or do you mean a specific individual that's out of territory? Because that's two different things. Okay, so a specific individual out of territory. Yeah, quite regularly. I mean, I've seen random lions in random places, random leopards. To give you an idea, the other day I was talking about a sighting that I had of Moya and Tingana. And now Moya normally occurs
Sorry about that with Tristan's feed. It's been a little bit bothersome this afternoon. I'm hearing some birds. Let's quickly go around the corner and check which ones they are. They're very noisy birds. These are none other than arrow-marked babblers. They're all over the show, but they're very busy, so let's see if we can frame one for you. Listen to that sound. Very, very cool sounds. Well, sounds like birding is order of the afternoon, so let's send you over to Nikki with the bird of prey.
So we we had a Butterleer eagle, and he just flew off. Like, he was on this. There's a beautiful tree right in front of us, but I just want to show everyone the bird that we saw earlier on. It flew off, so it doesn't really count. But just thought I want to show everyone this beautiful bird. Now, often, if there would be any carcass around, then sometimes you could find the Butterleer. I'm going to hold it like this in the light. But a beautiful bird. You'll notice quite a lot of white here and the black here. Now, the males and the females look a little bit different in flight. You'll see the one here has a lot of white and then black. And the one here, a lot of white, or a little bit less white, and then also quite a lot of black. So almost like half white, half black. Now, how I remember it to differentiate between the males and the females, especially in flight, is if you go to a wedding, a groom would wear a tuxedo. So he'll wear white shirt with black pants, and the lady would wear a white dress with black shoes. So just picture it. A white dress with black shoes means a lot of white and a little bit of black, but with the guy it's a tuxedo, so you're going to have a lot of white but just this much black. So half white, half black, and that's how I remember it. But I want to get back to, even though we are going to be on our way to try and look out for the pride, as well as possibly some leopard along the way, I just want to take the chance, just want to take my notebook quickly and just go through those questions, just to name them. So as Mithra 14, she asked, why was lions called the pride? So I'm going to get back to that one. And then the other question was from, 14, why does a zebra have a mane? Now I really want to get back to these questions, as I said. Now the main reason why a lion was called a pride is because of they were seen as animals that had quite a majestic posture, so very prideful. They looked like very proud animals, and hence the name pride. And then why a zebra would have a mane, it's a very interesting discussion though. Like, there's a lot of interesting theories about why. Maybe it gives a bit of structure to or support to the neck. But one of the most well-known theories, this is according to some sources, is that it actually helps us protection against potential predators. So imagine with a lion, if they do hunt anything, oh, look at the beautiful trees in this area. So if they do decide to hunt a zebra, they would normally go around the neck, because then they'll eventually suffocate it and then kill it from there. However, if there's a bit of mane and they do like jump from the back, it adds a little bit more protection. So that's one of the reasons why they'll have the mane. Often, especially with horses and especially with zebras, they do have a lot of fat reserves under the mane. So if they're on a very poor condition, sometimes the mane looks like it would be drooping to the side. However, I haven't seen that yet, but those were the two answers. And I really thought I just wanted to get back, because I was trying to see maybe we can find some zebra and then quickly run through the question and maybe some lions, but unfortunately we haven't seen them yet. Now we're going to have to try and find them. So we are going to approach another open area here. Oh, look at this. This is so beautiful. there's actually a few of them, and you can just see their heads. Oh, this one's going to cross the road. I think this one just came to show off. The others are all in the shade, and this one actually went into the light. Now have a look at all the birds around this one's neck. You'll see around the face. Oh, look. There's quite a few that land. I just want to see if we can count how many have landed on them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 oxpeckers. That's just landed on his head. And what they might be doing is, like, because this one is moving away, the others are on the shade, and they're feeding with their heads in the tree, so the oxpeckers can't really sit on them, so it probably just flew across to this one. Now I'm going to try and move slowly, like, forward, and you'll be able to see these ones in a little bit. Let's just go round about here. There we go. I know it's a bit of a awkward angle, but if we give it some time, we might just find them coming out towards where this other one is. But it looks like a few males that are close together. And how we know that, Sandy, I do agree, they are beautiful and graceful animals. Look at this one's eyelashes. It stands out quite a bit. Now imagine, look at the tree in front of it, and there's quite a lot of spikes on the tree, so every time it feeds, it really needs to look after those eyes, and having those long eyelashes really help. Look at how it's selectively, like, grabbing all those leaves with its lips. And I can just imagine how the tongue might just quickly, like, go out, wrap around the branch and to pull the leaves off. Stripe horse, very good question. You were asking what are the black tips towards the end of the tail. So that's just the color of the hair. Why it's that particular color, I'm not too sure, but I do know that the older they get, the longer that hair gets at the end of the tail. So then when there's a lot of flies, you'll just see them moving their tail quite a bit in order to hit and swat the flies away. You'll see, look at this one here that has moved off. So I'm going to ask you, see that one that just moved off into a bit of the sun? You might just see the tail now, especially there's a lot of flies around as we speak, and you'll see how it uses that tail just to swat all the flies. Just give it a second. Normally it doesn't take too long. I think this one might have spotted the other giraffe, so we'll just give it a bit of time. There we go. Just see swatting those flies. They are very graceful animals. Look at the one off here to the left. Owen, would you be able to focus on that one? I think while we carry on with our drive, it looks like these giraffe might eventually move off. They might even go into the river, and I can just imagine for this part of the day they'll go and feed all the way along the river here. There's quite a few big trees, and eventually from there on probably head to water, or they might have even come from water early on in the afternoon, because normally they drink in the heat of the day and then move on and start feeding. But I think while we carry on with our drive, we are going to link you across to, I think it is, who are we linking to, Owen?
Found the beautiful and secretive Inyala, which has just become very secretive and walked away. Let's see if we can go a little bit forward. Murphy's Law, as soon as we get to show them to you, they get stage fright. Hello, beautifuls. Ooh, there's a little one as well. Very cute. Just over here on the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Often in groups of around this number, 2 to 4. Sometimes I've seen groups of Inyala up to 30 before. A very loose social arrangement. They're kind of like giraffe, no set herd structure. Kind of come and go, meet up with each other. Bulls will sometimes meet up with the females, especially if they're on oestrus or heat. But otherwise they tend to get solitary as they get older, the bulls. Female generally with at least one or a handful of others. But like I say, sometimes they'll leave this group and go meet up with some others. Pretty much only the mother and the offspring that is a stable social structure with Inyala. Well, we have heard the buffalo. They are very close. I think we're just up in the ridge, but it is too thick up there to get a vehicle in, so we'll have to loop around on the back road and see if we can get a look. Ooh. What a nice little look at the Inyala. And that youngster, how cute is that? I just heard the buffalo again. So we're close, but looks like they're just on the upper side of this drainage line. These buffalo are laughing at us. You can follow us, but you can't see us. I love Inyala tails. Look how bushy they are. Having a little nibble. Remember, they're predominantly browsers, so they will be eating leaves and seed pods, flowers, and fruits. Often seen them following or hanging out around a troop of baboons or monkeys that are in a big tree. Because baboons and monkeys are very messy eaters, and there's always some fruit scraps that fall down. And the Inyala will make the most of that. Vienna, you've asked how can you tell the difference between kudu and Inyala? And I suppose the size is the first indicator. Kudu are a lot larger. Kudu also a lot grayer. Inyala have that browner color. And then kudu males have those great spiraling horns. They're very unique. Inyala males have a slightly spiraled horn, but it's nothing like a kudu bull. They are both secretive though in their movements and their habits. What a beautiful afternoon down in the riverbed. We've been out of the sun completely. Ngala 1, you've said this is the most beautiful tail in the bush. I think you're right. I can't think of anything that comes close, actually. There's a very beautiful tail. Just breathing in the coolness down here. It's like a whole different world down here in the Moati. You go up on the ridge and it's all dry and hot. You come down in here and it's like a little oasis. Lots of bird life down here, lots of thick vegetation, lots of moisture. What are we going to do about these buffalo, Alex? I think they are just up here. How about you take a jog up that way? See if you can see them. I can hear them. I can hear them feeding and every now and then. Of course, just like we're enjoying this lovely drainage line, so the buffalo often come down here. It's a little bit lower, so the cooler air sinks down here. It's not as warm as up on the ridge. While we breathe in fresh, cool air, we're going to send you over to Nikki, who's also enjoying his afternoon.
I just wanted to quickly stop. I'll lower my head out of the way. Now there's a yellow bull hornbill right in front of us in the road, but that's not the most very interesting bird. But there's something else that's here that's also interesting, is little dwarf mongoose. Now I can't see them now. They just darted over the road, and then you saw the hornbills. I just want to see if we can find one. Now they have such an amazing oh, there. Oh, sorry, that's my excitement. Let me just lean out of the way. Yeah, there's looks like. Oh, did you think that one was one? I'm going to try and move slowly forward, see if we can get another glimpse. I think there might be a few. Just slowly approach. I'm going to keep my head down. No, I think it's a bird. Yeah, it is one of the weavers. I think they might have moved off. But just to let everyone know what we've been looking at, you probably would have seen. Oh, I know a lot of the viewers are probably going to say, oh, he's probably seen something, but this is what we really saw. And I know, and you can ask Owen behind my back. This is absolutely what we saw. It's called the little dwarf mongoose. But what's interesting about the mongoose is, let's carry on. There's a warthog that we actually want to go past, especially this time of the evening, see if there's anything around. But often the yellow bull hornbills play such an amazing role. I've seen it the one time before where there was this beautiful termite mound, but it was an old abandoned termite mound, and the dwarf mongoose actually started making their home out of that termite mound. And in the mornings, early on in the morning, the yellow bull and wake up dwarf mongoose. They're having a little bit of a lie-in. And the reason for doing this is because as the mongoose, like monkeys, if they move through this area and they flush up some of the insects, those yellow bull hornbills will go and grab them. Not the dwarf mongoose, but the insects. And when we saw the dwarf mongoose running over the road, immediately we spotted all the yellow-billed hornbills flying up. But very interesting relationship that they have with one another. And also, I don't know if there's maybe a chance that even with that hornbill being around, adds also more eyes up in the air. Like, 'cause sometimes they'll sit up in the trees. If they do see any danger, they might just move off, alarming those mongoose, and then from there they move into the hole. But anyway, the warthog is right over here. Now, often with warthogs, it is a nice little treat in the afternoon because you never know what you're going to find. And I'm just thinking possibly hippos, because we know they might be in the water, but then also a chance of elephants, maybe even buffalo coming down to drink, or even the chance of lions. So let's slowly go. You might just see the area behind us starting to open up. We'll try and find a nice spot to quickly scan. Hannah, I agree with you. They're amazing to watch. They're like the meerkats that you're going to see at Tswalu, which is joining us tomorrow. So that's also very, very exciting. So we just stopped at this water. Look at how peaceful it is here. The only things that I can actually see is some hippos in the back. But look, the water looks like glass this afternoon. Not even a little breeze. nice the sunlight on that mist that they spray out of their nose. And these hippos might also be getting ready, like the way that they're moving back towards the shallower parts of this waterhole might be a good indication that later on this evening, as soon as it starts cooling down and it gets a bit darker, they'll move out to go and feed off some of the grass. And only later on in like early part of the morning, they'll start moving back into the waterhole. Also look, like there might be a little grebe right in front of us in the water. There he goes. I'd love to hear from the Djuma Rangers what happened with that little grebe nest. So, while we're going to carry on with our search, after enjoying this beautiful waterhole, I heard David said that he actually found a buffalo that's playing dead. So let's go and have a look.
We have found a buffalo. I don't know what everyone's talking about. There's definitely a buffalo. At least the remnants of one. It wasn't the one that was making the noise, though. Shall we go and check it out? In my experience, these buffaloes are far safer to approach. Yeah, those other ones are literally just up on the ridge there, and there's no ways to get the vehicle in there, so we're gonna have to try and make another plan. But for now, this is pretty cool. It was an old buffalo bull, a very nice specimen. These are my favorite kind of buffaloes because they've been through the wars. I mean, this bull saw a lot before he got munched. I don't know what took him. Probably lion would be the better guess. There's oxpeckers flying overhead. They're coming off the buffalo that are right there. But this guy is way more interesting at the moment. So you look at horns and this boss, which is this part of the horn, and it's so worn down. So these horns were a lot more developed on the points. The points would have been a lot higher, maybe around here. But over time, as he fought his battles and lived his glorious buffalo life in the bush, these horns wore down to where they're so smooth now. And the guys that get really old, that live all the way until the bitter end, will actually have nothing left. This gets worn down all the way, and they just have what we call the scrum cap. A scrum cap is a hat that you wear in rugby. Very, very cool. So he lived a good old life. We look at his teeth, they'll be nice and worn down. I'm completely unplugged, so if there was anything out of interest from the viewers, Alex can shout it to me. But what do we have here on the sides? No, this is not hair. Some of the viewers are saying this could be a good Halloween mask, maybe. Be a bit uncomfortable to carry on your head, but what do we have here? This is not a normal sight. You might wonder, what on earth is that? We spoke about it a little bit this morning on the morning sunrise safari. It's a very common occurrence out here on carcasses, and it's called the horn moth, or the horn borer moth. What it does is it lays its eggs there, and the larvae are eating the buffalo horn, which is made of keratin, one of the species that can actually digest and utilize keratin. Keratin is very difficult to digest protein, but for these guys, they do it. And these tubes that we see are actually the frass, which is just another fancy word for dung. It's just dung, it's poo. And it's poo that comes out of the inside, where that little larvae is busy munching on the keratin. It pushes back out, and there's a mixture of poo and silk that makes these tubes. So very, very interesting. You can actually see when this little hornborer moth pupates, it leaves its exoskeleton behind and it flies away. I don't know how I'm going to show it to you though. Maybe if I come a bit closer. There's one here. Joy, you're wondering when it would have died. Quite a while back, this thing looks like it's been here for a while, I reckon a good year. Let me turn this so that you can see it. There is get my carrots and snacks out of the way. See, there's a little exoskeleton of a hornborer moth. Can you check that? Kind of cool, hey? So you'll find this chowing, eating the horn, and also the hooves of animals. That's also made out of keratin, the hooves of ungulates. So, although it looks pretty gross, it's an important part of nature because this stuff needs to break down and return to the soil. Very, very cool. We'll put it back where it was and let everything keep munching on it. That is definitely way too heavy to be worn as a Halloween mask, just in case you're seriously considering it. Well, onwards and upwards to the living ones. Still got to figure out how to get there. Well, while we try and find our way through here, let's send you back over to Nikki for an update.
So we are approaching one of my favorite areas. So we're on our way to the lions now. We haven't seen any other tracks or signs. But one of my absolutely favorite areas on and beyond Ngala is definitely an open area that we're going to have to drive through. Now this time of the afternoon, you'll notice as we're carrying on, there's quite a lot of these trees that have these golden colors. So with the golden color in that area, it basically lights up this whole like open section, this grassland. And often zebra and wildebeest, you find them there, and you can imagine if they start moving, the dust that they kick up with the sunlight on it, it is just one of my favorites. So we're not too far away from it. It's pretty soon, and then from there we're going to do a loop, and we're probably going to be at the lions in the next 10 to 15 minutes. So that's what I'm hoping for as we get there soon. Now you can see we have started putting on our jackets, myself and Owen. And with us putting on our jackets, it's a good sign that it is starting to get a little bit cooler. And that's a chance where these lions could also start moving. So we try to plan our drive in such a way that this time of the afternoon is when we go back to where we saw them this morning. I thought I just wanted to what I want to do is later on after the lions, remind me to share a funny story with you in regards to what happened to myself and a tracker also on our way to lions. But before then, we're going to send you across to Tristan because apparently he's heading back to that lioness that he found earlier. And let's get an update from him.
We have indeed. We've headed back to our lioness just because we were fighting a very bad losing battle against the signal, I'm afraid. And so it was much better for us to come back to her and come and spend some time with her and see what she's up to. It's that time of the day now where I would expect that we could start to think about hyenas starting to come into the area. And so it's a good time to start being here. I was going to make the joke that that we had found Hosanna, but we had no signal. But I thought that would be very cruel, and you'd probably all kill me, so I didn't. It also occurred to me that it would not in any way be funny, because most of us would die to see him again, and so that's why I decided not to be doing that. Yeah, nice to be back with the lioness. Of course, the problem is the signal only allows us to sit in this exact spot. We cannot move from here, and that means that we cannot see her face too well, but it looks like she's about to start tucking in and feeding, so hopefully she'll turn a little bit at some point. Listen to her crushing the bone. Come on, girl. Now those noises are what's going to attract the hyenas as well as the smell. I just want to keep quiet just to see if we can hear it again. Isn't that cool that we can hear the bones and her teeth, the power of the jaws crashing those or crushing the bones? Now when she licks like that, I want you to try and listen very carefully, because you might even be able to hear the roughness of the tongue on the skin of the impala, which is pretty cool as well. Tom Selleck doesn't want to be left out behind us. It's him that's grunting in the dam behind where we are. So he thought he would just interrupt our sound for the afternoon. But it's interesting watching her. You know, often when lions feed and they're in a pride situation, they kind of just, I mean, obviously this would never have lasted if there was a pride here, but they would generally feed and they don't pay too much attention about looking around. But because she's on her own, do you see how nervous she is? She's almost eating more like a leopard or a cheetah would, which is bite, 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 eat a little bit, and then stop and pause and scan her, and just make sure that she's not being snuck up upon by hyenas, other lions, anything that's potentially dangerous for her. It's interesting to see the difference in how she's eating to when if she was in a pride, how they have a lot more kind of freedom in the way that they go about their eating habit. But you can hear her tearing away little chunks. Alright, we're going to sit here and carry on enjoying the sounds of her feeding, and while we do that, let's send you back across to Nikki, who apparently has got a very curious hyena.
So as we're on our way to these lions, we spotted this spotted hyena, and just look at how curious he is. He's actually just in front of us now. There was quite a few lapwings. I just don't want to move and disturb him, but there was a few lapwings that were in this area, and I wonder if he's not trying to see if there's any potential egg or maybe chick around. He's going to move back, like just to the front of the road here. But you can see he's still very, very fluffy and very curious. And even with us here, he doesn't even mind us. He's trying to smell to find out exactly what we are. Trishita, I do agree with you. He is very young. And also, like often you see the younger they are, the more curious. And I wonder if there's some more around in the area. Because earlier on there was quite a few banded mongoose that ran over the road. And straight afterwards we found the hyena. But look at the... It is... Camo, I agree, his color is beautiful. But look at how he's literally moving into the sun. Oh, and I'm going to ask if you can zoom out a little bit so they can see the sun sitting in the back. So while we watch this hyena walk into the sunset, we're going to send you back to Tristan with that lioness.
Sounds like a beautiful scene of that very curious hyena as it approached Nikki. It's always nice when you've got hyenas that are super curious. They make for intriguing animals, that's for sure. So I'm sure Nikki loved every minute of that. As you can see, our lioness is still obviously feeding. She's going to probably try and finish this up in the next little bit before it gets too dark. There's not going to be that much left of it. These guys eat a substantial amount in a young male impala of this size. It's not a big old impala, that's why I thought maybe the horns were broken, but they're just small set. So she'll go through this pretty quickly, and then I'm hoping she's going to go for a drink. We'll get her kind of out in the open, which is the plan. But you can still hear that crunching. Power that they possess to be able to break down these carcasses is just phenomenal. I don't want to talk too much because I think the audio is just so incredible, and because the visuals aren't great. Sometimes, when you're with guests and we're guiding guests, it's important to just sit in a moment like this, and if you don't have the best visual, just almost close your eyes and just listen rather than see, purely because the sound is just so amazing to hear. It's not something you hear all the time with lions. And the power, like I say, of them crunching bone and tearing flesh. It's a pretty sickening sound at one side of it, but also a kind of inspiring sound in terms of the amount of power that it takes for her to be doing what she's doing. I'm pretty sure this lioness is incredibly happy with the fact that she found this meal. It's a huge amount of nutrients for zero energy expended. So I'm glad that she's managed to find it. That's for sure. A lone lioness always needs a little bit of an extra boost. That's for sure. So it's pretty cool. Now, talking about extra boost, we of course would be ever so grateful if you would continue to support us. Bringing you these daily wildlife shows has obviously got its expenses, and so it's wonderful to have seen how many of you have supported already. But if you do want to support, you can just click on the link below. It would be greatly appreciated. That sound is amazing. wish she would turn and face us with this carcass, but the likelihood of that is almost zero. Darcy, and you're in agreement that the crunching is just a crazy sound. I know it makes you almost, doesn't it make you feel like you get these kind of hairs that stand on the back of your neck, and it's almost like a little bit of a shiver that goes down your spine at the thought of the bones being kind of crunched like that. Obviously the impala's not feeling anything because it's been dead for 4 days, but still there's just something about it, you know, when we hear that sound, it almost makes us feel a little bit kind of nervy. Emma, I'm afraid not. So Emma is saying that she would have expected our impala to be less crunchy with its soaking that it got. What it will be is a lot more tender, I can tell you that much. This lioness has scored for 2 reasons. One is that it's going to be quite tender because it's, you know, been floating about and decaying. But the second reason is that it wouldn't have decayed too badly and wouldn't have gotten to the point where it's become kind of liquid inside or bloated or anything like that, because the water temperature will be very cold. The night times will cool that water right down, and it's a big enough body of water that would have kind of almost acted a bit like a refrigerator for this impala. And so the meat itself, while it does smell, is actually not too bad for a 4-day-old carcass. If this had been in the sun for 4 days, it would have been covered in maggots and it would have been disgusting and smelly. But she has actually scored herself a nice little tender, fresh impala that, like I say, will probably go a long way to feeding her. I'm not convinced this is the same lioness that was at the gate the other day. I mean, that lioness had a wildebeest kill, and she certainly doesn't have she doesn't look like she's obesely fat, although I suppose they do digest fairly quickly and they kind of process, but it would beg the question as to where's that cub, if it is that same lioness. We didn't see her. I do have a photo of her. It's not a great photo of her, but maybe we can use these 2 photos. It's a guy by the name of Neil Jennings took it, and he was in Manyeleti. He's doing some safaris for Swallow, and he was very kind to kind of keep me updated that morning, and has been since, just kind of keeping me updated with the movements of animals in the Manyeleti and the dogs and various other things that are going on. So I'm just trying to find the picture, and then maybe what we can do is, if this lioness turns at some point, we can kind of see if anyone can match them up. As he said to me, it's not a great photo of her, but it just doesn't look like the same lioness, that's for sure. This is the lioness that they saw with the cub the other day. This looks like a little bit of a different lioness. The ear on the left side doesn't look the same. Her ear does have a notch somewhere on the left, but I think it's towards the top. But it's not a great picture, I know, in terms of IDing purposes. But maybe if we get a view of her just now, we can potentially just try and kind of figure out something that looks similar between her and this one. And then I'll just show you what the cub size was. This is the poor little cub in a massive marula tree trying to hide away from the hyenas the other day. Shame. But it did come down. It apparently got down safely and was with Mom when they left, with no hyenas there. And they actually managed to still feed off that wildebeest kill for most of the day, which is a good thing. So that lioness did well, the little cub did well to get away and out of danger zone when it came to those hyenas. It's quite a feat for a little cub to climb a marula, that's for sure. Now she's going to be at her crunchiest part, which is the head now. Zano, it could very well be the young Nkuma lioness. You're saying the one with the nick in the ear. I mean, yeah, it's difficult from the angles we've received so far as to who she is. I'm just trying to see that left ear, if there's anything that, yeah, you see she's got a notch on the top left, like a little V out of the top left ear. Not a very big one. And then the right ear has also, I think, got a notch in it towards the top as well, also a little V. So that doesn't match the ears that we've just seen now on that other lioness. So maybe Nkuma lioness, look, she's almost done with this, and I'm almost 90% sure that when she's done, she's going to go for a drink of water over on the dam, and that will give us a really nice opportunity to hopefully see her out. We can actually get a sense of her body size, coupled with, you know, facial features and various other bits, in order to make a proper ID on her. Lions are always a much harder animal to ID than leopards. Leopards have just spots all over the place that are unique to them, and it makes it much easier to pick up even just a flank or a shoulder or a neck, particularly for some of you at home that are experts at identifying the leopards from various parts of their body. But they give it away with those spots, whereas lions is a little bit more tricky because you rely a lot more on the whisker pattern and the ear pattern when it comes to these guys in terms of trying to identify them. Excellent. Well done to all of you. Tom Selleck is in agreement behind me. So hearty congratulations to all of you for making the comparisons, and apparently you have all come to the conclusion from photographs that this is the neck-eared lioness that has been missing. So that's exciting. Hopefully she's going to join up with the Pride. She's not too far from where the Pride is. They are on Little Gowrie. I mean, it's a long way for us as humans to walk, but for lions it's not that far. So hopefully those lions make a little bit of a noise, and that will allow her to hear them and make her way towards them. Was she hanging around with the male of late? Is that where she's been? Because I know that there was one that was with the Nkuhuma male for a while. So I think it must be her, and that's why the young male is kind of with the sticks, and maybe she's trying to get back to where the Pride is. But good to hear. It's always nice when we see an Nkuhuma lioness. They're beautiful, beautiful girls. Okay, well, we're going to stay here for a while. We're going to hope that she starts to get up and show herself a little bit more. In the meantime, though, let's send you back across to David.
We did catch them. Took long enough, but we weren't going to give up after this morning. We had to accept defeat with a lion that crossed out. We pursued and persisted, and we found them. Just a handful of dogger boys were just visible. They've just run up the bank. This is a beautiful boy. You look at the tips of those horns. He's well on in years, but he's still got some time to go, and as he gets older, those horn tips will wear down. Look at that face. He's got some stories to tell. Jenna, he's saying yay for buffalo. We found them. Pretty much took us the whole drive, didn't it? See that little ox pick on its back, catching the lift. There he goes, he's going to climb up. It's gone up the hill, we might see his friends. A little birdie whispers in my ear that Dam Cam has got a view of the others descending onto the dam, so why don't we go over there and have a look at them in the open. Hopefully they go down and drink. As we make our way to the dam, let's send you over to Nikki, who's got his lions. Hello.
So we just found the pride from this morning, so we had to go into a bit of a night mode so we can have a look at them. But you can see the white, it looks like the white male that's laying on the left, and then the two tawny colored youngsters in the middle. It also looks off to the left here. And would you be able to focus on this one next to the tree? So right next to the tree, it looks like the young female, the white female is laying down at the base of the tree. Look at that other one that's just put the paw on top of the back. Now they haven't moved too far from where they were this morning. I think they altogether probably moved 20 meters. So just over 20 yards. She's probably saying like, take your paw off. So it looks like all the youngsters are laying down in the middle and off to the left, and off to the right, just through the trees there in the grass, you might just see the ears, the black of the ears of some of the females, the ones that will be leading this pride. So this is that Birmingham pride, the one with the two white youngsters in it. Sam, I agree. It's quite a massive difference between the white and the tawny colored ones. Especially, like you'll see it, normally after a bit of rain and the white lines are washed, they have this quite unique white coat. Now it looks a little bit dirty, and I think it's because of like probably laying on the road. The road has a bit of red soil, as well as last night they probably made that kill, so still a little bit dirty from all of that. You can see this one in the middle just grooming itself. And the thing about these lions, you can actually smell them. It's a very, very strong smell. The wind's actually blowing from them towards us, and it's a really... Oh, and how would you describe it? Like, would you say a very hard, blunt smell? Stinky smell? Just stand by. So we're gonna send you across to Tristan while we spend some more time with these lions and find out what's happening on that side.
It's an interesting question, Nikki. I think it really depends on what the lion's been doing, to be honest with you. They generally don't smell too bad, actually. When they walk past you and they haven't been eating and are not little balls, then they generally are actually fine. They don't really have a smell that is noticeable. But when they've been eating, then they take on this putrid, rotten, sharp smell, which is, as Nikki pointed out, it's not a pleasant smell, to be honest. It's not nice. But that's only really when they've been eating a lot of food and they are kind of covered in that and they have that sort of rotten smell on them. But it's not common like that. They generally clean themselves very well. They're cats after all. Most cats don't like to be covered in grime and dirt and things and spend a lot of their time grooming. And so you'll find that they generally will go about their kind of eating very, very well. So I wonder if these guys have seen us. There we go. we're here. So they can come in. As the guys from Elephant Plains, which is actually the people I wanted to see, so I can have a chat to them about what they've been seeing on their side just now. And we'll be able to figure out what's been happening and where Tiani is, and Inzutini and Hukamuri and all the likes. Nicole, highly unlikely. Most other prides will see her as competition and will try and fight with her, as is evidenced by the interactions that the Salala Lioness had with the Sevu Pride this last week, between that kind of Mala Mala Londolozi boundary. So it's unlikely, but it can happen. Like I said, at Lion Sands we had the female join the Southern Pride from a different pride, so it has happened in the past, but it's highly unlikely. Generally they're seen as competition and are either chased or even potentially killed by other prides. I think it's far more likely that she's going to join her own pride in the form of the Nkahumas than she is going to be to join anybody else. If she was a young male, it's a little bit different. Young males, for some reason, are able to worm their way into prides a lot easier than what these young females do. The young females typically get pushed out pretty quickly and sent packing. What would be super interesting with her, though, is because we know that she's distantly related to the Telematis or Torchwoods, if it's possible that maybe she's accepted by them. That would be an interesting thing. I don't think so, purely because she is not a direct relative of theirs. So if she was maybe a daughter or an individual that was a part of the pride at one point and then split away and came back, different. But I don't think there's any sort of bond between her and those lions, even though they are in some way related. She won't have that bond with them and would probably be so fearful of them that she would try and kind of move away, unless she was in extremely poor condition and they were on a big kill. Then she might potentially try and move a little bit closer and try and join for a food aspect, but she's going to be pretty nervous of most other lions as well. Alright, we're going to sit here. She seems like she's kind of finishing up. It doesn't seem like there's too much left there, and so while we sit here and enjoy this, let's send you across to an animal that her pride was very good at hunting at one stage.
We are enjoying this. It's very peaceful. Well, it was very peaceful. Don't know what happened there. And that's all she wrote. The herd came down, had a quick drink, and they've moved on. Quite a large herd. Probably that same one that Tristan had at Buffelshoek Dam. Looking at the count, 50, 60 odd animals. Just me, you're giving me a high five, Nana, for finding the buffalo. Thank you, I'll take it. Look at that beautiful sky. Oh no, Mua, how's it going? You reckon you like the pastel reflection of the sun in the water? It is beautiful. like a painting. Well, sounds like Nikki's lions are waking up. It's that time of day, so let's send you over to him. See what they're up to.
So all the lions have started moving a little bit closer to one another. So and have a look, this young female actually got off up here on the left. So they're all starting to get ready, probably to start moving into the evening. So you can just see the one female moving, that moved from the left to the right. We can't see her now. I think it's all the youngsters on the road at the moment. But she just went and she started like waking up the youngsters, and now they all started getting up. Even look at the young male getting up and yawning. It's often a really good indication that they are going to move. Just a nice stretch. Rachel, I would say probably the best thing for me about a lion has to be their social structure. Just have a look at this one here on the left, Owen. I think he's actually grabbing hold of the tree with its, he just jumped off, but he was stretching, or she was stretching, it's hard to see with his light, her claws on that tree. I would say that for me, the absolute most amazing thing about a lion is definitely their social structure. It's like one moment, how they are such social animals, and they constantly rub their faces against each other, like help each other up, like they all wait for one another. But when it comes to food, like all of that, it just feels like it's going out of the window. They don't really care about anything. But then I also think the way that they communicate without even making a noise, like I've seen lions hunting before where I asked myself the question, how did this female know that the other one was going to go in that direction? And how did she know when to run and when not to do that? And all of that is just basically through the movement of the tail, maybe like the body language of the particular individual. And for me, it's just amazing how they're able to read that from one another. So one of the directors, Emma, reckons that the best thing for her is also the paws of the lions. She says she doesn't know exactly why, but it's just the paws. I think, should we follow these lions for a little bit? Let's see where they're off to. Now, I heard some oxpeckers off to the left, and I think with the oxpeckers, it might be either from them going back to, there's actually more, there's more lions on this side, so we'll just wait for them to also follow the rest of the pride before we start following them. Does it look like this one also has a little limp on that left front foot? I think he might have laid on that foot, and now, the pins and needles feeling, so he's probably just walking it off. Lions are extremely tough animals, and it's amazing how quickly they can recover from an injury or even a sprain. All right, let's try and follow them for a little bit. think a lot of the viewers would agree with me how beautiful it is to actually follow pride of lions like this. Now, they also, like that hyena, moving into the sunset. Now, it'd be interesting to see where they're going to go from here. Now, they have moved. They probably made a kill, as we mentioned this morning. But it's interesting to know, like, if they do carry on in that direction, they are actually going to eventually move towards a waterhole. And I wonder if that is possibly what their intentions are. Maybe head towards the waterholes tomorrow morning. There's always, and of course, as they go in that direction, there's always a chance that they might find a potential meal. But for now, they've been lying down the whole day, so they're basically just getting up, stretching those legs, reaffirming that bond, and now moving on. I'm just going to move a little bit closer. This one is still very lazy. He's decided to lay down right in front of us in the road. So I know it is getting a little bit darker now, and unfortunately with hearing some of the oxpeckers and that, and also considering the age of some of the youngsters, we won't have any spotlight on them as we speak, only once they get a little bit older. But for now, we're going to have to spend as long as we possibly can. And just take it from there and see where they go. And if we do eventually lose tonight light, we'll carry on, and possibly earlier on tomorrow morning we'll look for them again. While we do that, let's send you across to Tristan, who's very close to his line.
Not sure. A bit more visible is what well, there we go. That's better. Thank you, girl. For all of half a second, she was more visible. But she's been kind of hiding behind that bush for a little bit. She must be almost done now. I mean, she's been crunching away, and I could see just now she was shaking just literally skin. So there can't be much more in the way of actual food there, or actual meat. And so I'm hoping that she's going to be almost done, and then we're going to see her actually starting to move, like I say, towards the dam for a bit of a drink. I mean, I don't know. She might sit and stay where she is. Sometimes they do. But I am hoping that she'll be thirsty from a warm day. I mean, she might have drunk just before we got here. I don't know. But it has been a warm day, and therefore a good opportunity for her to go and drink would be now. After eating, that's what they often do, is they kind of finish up and then wander off, go drink, and go and find somewhere then to lie down. She doesn't have to worry about shade and things like that now. And so I think that's what we're going to be patient and wait for. No hyenas have arrived whatsoever. I haven't heard a hyena. I haven't even seen anything moving around. She's luckily been left on her own, which is some sort of a miracle, because there are hyena tracks all around this dam, and I know that the Elephant Plains clan always is around here early in the mornings. I don't know why, but they like this section in the mornings. They use the fire breaks to walk back towards the dens. So how she's gotten away with this, I have absolutely no idea. It's probably why she's stashed it in this back end here. It's just that it's a little bit more out of the way and less visible, so she wouldn't have attracted the attention of vultures. She wouldn't have kind of been out in the open for hyenas to spot. A hyena would have really had to kind of walk over the dam wall or behind the dam wall to spot her. If it walked along the sort of fire break area, it would have missed her completely. But talking about hyenas, it sounds like David has made his way to the den, which I'm sure will impress many of you who have been asking about the little ones, because we haven't been there much lately. So hopefully they're out and about and see what's happening.
And back by popular demand, mini ribbon number 2, and ribbon off to the left. We saved the best for last. I wanted to come here all dry, but I thought let's just wait a little bit until it cools down, so we have a better chance of them actually emerging. just as we got here, they started coming out. And I can well imagine that everyone is very excited to see these beauties. And there they go, back in the hole. Got another vehicle approaching. We just startled them a bit, but hopefully they come out again just now. And just in case anyone's worried about it, Ribbon was there just a couple moments ago. She just moved off to the left here. So she is here. She's looking good. Well, while we wait here and hopefully see them emerge again quite soon, we're going to send you back over to Nikki with Lion.
So it's so funny to watch this pride. So there's a couple of youngsters in front, and what they're doing at the moment is there were quite a few nightjars on the road, and they actually started chasing the birds and trying to catch them. And the one started, and then eventually, like, all three of them headed in that direction. But it looked like they might have picked up something else. There's actually one, like, right next to us that's laying on top of a termite mound. He's probably using it as a bit of a vantage point. Now, if we do show it, it might not be very bright because of the ambient light. Striped horse, very good question. It normally has to do with smell. Like a lot of times with the whole pride of lions, like you often see them rubbing their heads and their faces together, so they put a certain scent on one another. And of course, often if they do roar, they can distinguish from one individual to another. So I would say probably smell is going to be the major one. You'll see pretty soon this young white male is going to join. I think he just rolled down from the termite mound into this big patch of grass. See if he gets up. You can see the whole pride moving, so he'll probably feel like he doesn't want to fall behind. I agree. I think they, like, with it being such a big pride, there's 12 lions here that I've counted. There's a good chance that if they do move and they do flush anything, or they do smell anything, that they will potentially take that opportunity. So it would really be worth it for us to stick with them. So we're going to carry on and see if they can possibly, if they were going to be successful in getting something to eat for the evening, like a late dinner. But while we're doing that, let's head across to Tristan, who has a lioness.
It is indeed. It's still feasting away. It's not given us a very good view, I'm afraid. There's not much I can do about it. Unfortunately, if we could go forward a meter, we would have a really nice view, but and that's when we have a huge problem, because we are behind the dam wall. The dam wall is between us and our tower, and so that's why it's a bit of an issue. But she's going to town. Listen to that. Oh, here's a hyena here. Look, there's a hyena just in front of us. So that's the first one that's arrived. I suspect one of the EP clan members that is here, which would be just here on the left. It's walking from right to left. It's behind this bush. So it's going to be with the IR light almost impossible, because of the fact that the IR is going to be making it reflect, unfortunately. So I'm going to try and put a spotlight just for BK to be able to see where we are. At the back there, BK. Like over the back side of this. Hyena's walking that way. There we go. It's not easy with the infrared. Unfortunately, the infrared reflects off anything. But it's interestingly that hyena looked, saw there's a lion there, and just turned and walked up. Now, one-on-one, it's got no chance. But if it starts to attract the others, and there's a bit of an attention that takes place, and others move in, then you can start to see them actually interacting. I'm surprised though that the hyena didn't come a little bit closer, but I think it saw lion and was like, I'm not dealing with that on my own. I know I don't have others with me, and so out of here. Blair, the EP clan are savage. People don't understand how savage they can be. Please remind me tomorrow morning, because now I won't be able to do it, but I'm going to try and find a picture for you guys of the EP clan when they murdered a bushbuck on the lodge entrance at Simbambili and left a massacre second to none. It was literally the entire front entrance, which is this white floor, was this bloody stain. It's quite savage to see it. So that's one sort of savage side of the EP clan. The other savage side of the EP clan is their propensity to corner buffalo at night against rooms and torture these poor things by biting them all over the place. A few times we had these poor buffalo cornered up against the sort of spar fence or spar wall, and they would just sit, and then they would just hammer away at these poor buffalo, and they'd bite their tendons on their back legs, pull their tails off, and all kinds of things. And it was this epic war that used to take place between them, and sometimes they used to get it right. The other interesting thing that happened with the EP clan during the drought, which was fascinating to watch, is the buffalo became so weak that they would literally just fall over and lie down, and they wouldn't really do anything, and they would be almost on their last legs. And the EP clan worked out, well, I think, this is my hypothesis, is that they worked out that there was too many buffalo dying too quickly, that they weren't able to actually keep up with the rate of death, and things were rotting too fast, and there was this kind of mass die-off, and so they were trying to prolong the situation. And so what they did is that they would basically attack these buffalo, and they'd bite them behind the shoulder blades, and they would chew these holes through the top of this buffalo's back and between its kind of shoulder blades and onto its spine, and you could actually see how they had damaged the entire spine. And then they would walk away, and that would leave this buffalo completely paralyzed. It would just lie there bellowing, so its head would, it would still be able to move its eyes and its nose and its mouth, but its rest of its body was completely there was nothing, and it would just sit there. And for days these buffalo would just lie there. It was the most horrendous thing I've ever seen in my life. And I remember coming across 3 different buffalo like that had these holes through the back, and hyena tracks all around them, and then hyenas just sleeping next to them, and then they would just get up, and eventually the buffalo would die from blood loss in this gaping hole, and then they would eat it. But it definitely prolonged the time that they had buffalo fresh for, as opposed to just having to eat this kind of rotten stuff. It was a pretty incredible thing to watch in some respects, in terms of an intelligence side of it, but a macabre thing at the same time. Like I say, to come across a buffalo in that condition is really not very pleasant at all. It was one of the most difficult things I think I've watched, is these buffalo just lying there, and you can visibly see that they're in pain, bellowing, and these hyenas eating through their shoulder blades. Capricorn, it was awful. It was terrible. The drought here was no joke. It was a horrible thing to witness. Seeing animals suffering to the point where they're skin and bones, watching them fall over and die, being massacred en masse by lions and hyenas. It was a horrible thing to witness. It's not something I think I would ever want anyone to really have to go through. We see it with farmers and things like that. Drought is a really, really ugly thing when it comes to animals. And it was a hard thing to go through. And that's why now when we see the bush so lush and we see these animals looking so healthy, it really is an incredible kind of turnaround. And it's amazing how resilient nature is and how it's able to recover in such a short space of time. I mean, we're not talking long ago, we're talking 3-4 years ago that it was at its worst, yet now you see the buffalo and they're fit and they're healthy and they're strong and they're muscular, and it just goes to show how quickly they come back when the rains happen. The problem is, though, is the Elephant Plains clan and this particular lion pride, the Nkuhumas, in fact most lions and most leopards and hyenas, their numbers would have reached a pinnacle through this drought. So as the animals suffered, the availability of food would have caused this slow spike in predator numbers. But now as these animals start to get stronger, these guys are going to have it much harder now. It's going to be much more difficult to hunt and get weaker individuals. Those abilities to find free meals are going to be harder to come by. And so it's going to be interesting to see whether or not the clans and the prides numbers start to decrease, because there's no doubt that over the last few years the increase has been huge when it's come to pride numbers and clan numbers. Most of the prides at one point were below 10. Now we're starting to see in Sevu pride big. The hyena behind us. It's on the damn wall. Well spotted, BK. So there it goes. That hyena looks like it's been eating all day as well. It looks like a little barrel itself. So it's certainly not small. One thing I will say about the hyenas is that of the Elephant Plains clan is they are massive. They are big girls. There used to be one that she was old hyena. I wonder if she's even still alive, but her tummy was so distended and so kind of stretched out from so many times of eating and giving birth that it was absolutely amazing to watch her walk around, because his tummy almost like dragged on the floor. But she had no fear for anything. She was always the first one that would run in, and there was a particular sighting, and I'm sure I've told the story before, with Anderson, Salehesh, and Tiani, the 3 leopards, and they were sitting at this base of a tree. And Anderson is a big leopard. He was a big leopard, a really large leopard, and he was sitting there, and he was quite used to, and I'd seen him a lot with hyenas, that he was very used to just sitting his ground and watching hyenas, and he'd just snarl at them, and they'd generally just do a loop around. They weren't too interested in going toe-to-toe with him. But on this particular day, Salesh and Tiani saw these hyenas coming, and they ran up into a tree, but he just sat still and watched them. And from about 40 meters out, this hyena, this big, old, and she was very ginger, she was almost red in color, and she just started running from 40 meters, and I thought, Anderson will get up and move, and he just watched her, and I think in this leopard's mind, it was like, well, this hyena will stop eventually, it's not going to worry me, it's just coming in to see if there's food. And so he sat for too long, and this hyena just thudded into him, but full speed. It was like a car accident, this T-bone effect. And this leopard just jumped straight into the air and ran for it with this hyena chasing after it. But this hyena had not even a slow down in its step. It literally just came full steam ahead in order to try and intimidate this leopard. It was absolutely amazing to witness. And then, like I say, I've watched them go after lions a few times. It's not a very pleasant thing. Sorry, I'm just using my light quickly just to scan for the hyenas, because I can't see anything around me at the moment, and it's very difficult for me to even see the lioness. She's turned quite a lot. Sorry, BK, if I create hot spots in your frame, I do apologize. But no, I can't see the hyena. It's not anywhere close at this stage. So, the Elephant Plains clan. Well, I'm not surprised I've gotten this comment, Adele, because you're saying you don't mess with a redhead, and I'm not surprised I've received that comment, because our director in question today, Emma, is a redhead, and that's a common quote And I will be honest, between all of our directors, Kirsty and Emma, the two redheads, are certainly the ones that command a bit of respect. It's the redheads are fiery in our camp, and they are the most lovely people, and they really are great. But they certainly do command some respect, which is a good trait to have, particularly when you're trying to wrangle a whole bunch of us hooligan guides and keep us from doing all kinds of things that we're probably not supposed to do. So they do a fine job, the two of them. But yes, I can't even remember what we called her. It was something to do with, I think we called her Ginger, I think was her name. I can't remember, actually, it's so long ago. But that clan was fascinating to watch. And then you'd go to the dens, and it was all out chaos. I mean, I remember the one time that they had, I think it was 11 or 13 cubs in one den. It was absolutely insane to go to those dens. You just see madness, and your car would come away looking terrible. So yeah, that particular clan was a firm favorite for a lot of us just to follow in order to see some crazy cool things. But that hyena just seems to have gone. I really can't see any sign of it with the spotlight at all. I don't, and it's very difficult because most guides, unlike what we do at WildEarth, which is, I mean, we follow animals for a long period of time, and you guys are along for that ride, and it becomes quite important to have animals that you can relate to and that you can build on and that you can follow, because it's an intriguing thing for all of us to see the trials and tribulations of an animal's life. But when you're a guide and you've got guests for 3 days, 2 days, 1 day, 4 days, you know, people aren't there long enough to really interpret an animal's life, and therefore hyenas don't get that attention. Yes, the leopards and the lions do, because they're iconic and people want to see them, and people then follow them on Facebook. Much easier to follow because of generally are very difficult unless somebody following them, working out the den structure, almost impossible. And particularly with the EP, she really knows how many are in that clan right now. I mean, to admit you start arriving as adults to get a rough estimate numbers, but really because of the fact that they're recognized enough, and that's you that time though where we need to start saying goodbye to all of you. Hopefully you had a really nice afternoon and enjoyed all the wonderful this afternoon. So a little bit of for everyone, I think. Don't you think, Bika? Bika? Yes? Did I catch you? All right, from all of us, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you tomorrow morning on the Sunrise Safari.